is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of The Campaign Grind. This is the first episode of 2018. I want to wish you all a happy and prosperous new year. Hope all your goals get crushed. I hope you guys are able to accomplish them. Hope you guys are able to succeed. I hope you guys continue to listen to these episodes of The Campaign Grind. We got our host back, Mr. Rey Valdez. What's going on, brother?
Thank you. Good
How's
to
everything?
see you. Good to be here. Happy New Year to all.
Happy New Year to all.
Yeah.
Thank you guys very much. Like I said, hope you guys had a happy holiday season. Hope you have an awesome and prosperous 2018. Write down your goals. We'll look at them every single day. Work towards accomplishing and crushing those goals. And I guarantee you're going to do it. We got a pretty cool episode lined up for you guys today. We're going to be talking about three topics, and this is actually in the nitty-gritty aspect of the campaign. Basically, we talk about what to do to get started with the campaign, what you should look for, how you should start, who you should talk to, what to look for in the numbers, the demographics of the district of where you're going to be running. But this is actually a little more in depth of the campaign. So get ready. We're about ready to jump in. The first topic I want to talk about is the importance of running a lean campaign. Lots of people, Rey, and I'm sure you've experienced this too. Rey's been involved in several campaigns from way back when dinosaurs were running for office and shit. Just kidding.
We still got them.
we still got some running. But I want to talk about the importance of having and running a lean campaign. A lot of candidates, especially when they're running for office for the first time, they want to, and even when they're running for re-election, okay? But they get in their mind that they want to have everybody involved in their campaign, everybody under the sun. Different consultants, different strategists, different people that are going to help them get involved into different pockets of the community, so on and so forth. I like to tell our clients, stay away from that. The reason why, it's because once you have too many chefs in the kitchen, nothing is going to get done. As I've said in previous episodes, when you run for office, do your due diligence, look into the other candidates' report, not other candidates, other elected officials' past campaign reports to see who they hired. Interview with their consultants or their strategists, even if you can't afford them, but so you can get some ideas, some tips, some tricks, some insight as to how to run a legitimate campaign. Because the last thing you want to do is have one consultant or strategist for A, another one for B, another one for C, and then guess what? Everybody has their own way of doing things. And if you put them all in a room, I guarantee you're going to leave that room or that meeting more confused than when you got in there. So make sure that you have only one consultant or one strategist that oversees everything else that's going to be getting done. Once you start bringing in too many people, nothing's going to happen. Another reason, Rey, and I think that we were actually talking about this before we started this episode, was, running a lean campaign allows you to be nimble, allows your campaign to be nimble. So like that, for instance, you're doing polling or you're knocking on doors and you're talking to the voters and people are basically saying, yeah, we're going to vote for you, we're going to vote for you, we're going to vote for you. Great. So you've got this high that you're going to kick ass, you're going to crush it, you're going to get elected and nothing's going to happen. But not that nothing's going to happen, that you're going to win. But then, a couple of weeks later pass and you start seeing more and more signs of your opponent, more and more door hangers left on doors of your opponent. You're like, holy smokes, what in the world is going on? And let's say you start doing a poll. You start seeing that your numbers start dropping because your opponent is doing much more work. If you have too many consultants involved, they're all going to have their way of increasing your name ID, helping you out in the long run to basically counter all that hard work your opponent has been doing last week or so to build that name recognition, to add more signs, to send more stuff in the mail, so on and so forth. So having a lean campaign and not too many chefs in the kitchen allows you to be nimble and figure out different strategies how to counter what your opponent is doing. Rey, what is your take on this? You've seen several campaigns and I really want to get your input on it.
Well, my experience is that, it used to be campaigning, used to be a whole different game many years ago. So when we talk about the dinosaurs who are still there, sitting there.
And we got a live one here.
Many of them have been there 40, 50 years, 30 years. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Because in those days, a lot of people didn't run for office. Today, more people are, volunteering to sacrifice to run for office, which is a big job. But the fact is that, sometimes you might not have just one opponent. you might have 2, 3, or 4 opponents for people running for the same seat.
Yeah.
And what happens is, your perspective is the correct one. You really, what you want is, most probably you're never going to run a campaign where you're going to get 70 or 80% of the vote. You're going to get your piece of the pie, depending on how hard you work.
Well, that's if you have if you don't have any opposition,
right?
Because there was a mayor's race not too long ago that the mayor got elected here locally, and he got almost 80%. Because he had the
very unusual, but also, when that happens, I myself don't like to see that, because to me that says that we got same thing, same place.
Yeah.
Because you have no mandate.
Yeah.
A person who has no opposition, you have only one candidate running for office, and all 1,000 voters in a city like Miami-Dade County. Or
1,000 voters. No, there's more than 1,000.
No. What I'm saying, 1,000 voters gets anybody elected in any one of the municipalities. Give
or take.
Yeah, more or less.
Give or take.
So it's you really, people are not coming out to the polls. Basically 10% of the voting mass really elects any candidate. Most municipalities and so on. So it's a tough game.
I agree, and so it's to be fair, the person that got elected, he is elected. He did win with I think 70-something, 80-something% of the votes. There were other candidates. They did do their due diligence. They did file the paperwork. They qualified as candidates. They did their very best, but unfortunately, they were going up a big, heavy machinery here. Yeah. And I voted for him. I believe he's going to be the best mayor that we've seen, or that I've seen. And they did their due diligence. They did what they needed to do, but in reality, they were going up against somebody that had a well-oiled machine, a lot of money, and a lot of name recognition throughout the entire city. So I agree. I agree. Number 2, why running locally matters. We get a lot of candidates come in through these doors. Yes, that blue door there, they come in through that blue door and they say, I want to run for state senator. I want to run for Congress. I want to run for governor. I want to run for commissioner of ag. They want to run for something so crazy, so absurd, and they've never run for office in the past. One of the things is that I always tell first-time candidates, unless it's a race that makes sense for this particular candidate running for the first time, you need to get your feet wet. You need to know exactly how the system works, how government works, how elections and campaigns work, so on and so forth. But most importantly, I try to push them to run locally. The reason why is because you're able to make more of an impact locally. Here locally, you're running for a municipal council, commission seat, or a council seat. You're going to be buying your groceries at the same place your constituents or your commissioner, your councilman or councilwoman buys their groceries. You're going to be able to interact with them one-on-one and be able to get an idea of exactly what the real needs of the community are. You're going to be able to have a very big impact locally. So I always urge the first-time candidates, if there's no open seat for a state race or a federal race that kind of makes sense for these candidates, we like to urge them to to run for office locally. Now, when you ran, Ray, it was local. It was a state race, but it was also local. The reason why was because the amount of voters that were going to be coming out to vote and the pockets of the districts with it and the precincts within that district, you were able to kind of touch them, talk to them, get an idea and feel for them as to what their issues were. What I'm trying to get at is, there's some candidates that run for state office and want to pass tax this or budget for that, or certain mumbo jumbo that happens in DC and Tallahassee. But for this particular race, it was a little different. The reason why is because it was a little more local, it was a little more homey. You're really able to fix potholes for these constituents, fix the transit, the buses here with the local county elected officials, so on and so forth. So what is your take on running locally, especially if it's the first time you run for office?
Running locally is a whole different game. I think that running locally it plays well to the fact of people who are activists or advocates in the community, people who get involved with your different local organizations, the Chamber of Commerce, the Homeowners Association, the local charitable organizations, and so on and so forth. And that gives you a lot of leverage if you are a long-term resident in your district or in your area, and you have been very active in those communities. But that will add opportunity or possibilities to your getting elected.
Yeah.
But that is not an election. I found that out the hard way. I thought that because I belonged to 50 organizations for the last 20 years, and that I was going to, I was member of half a dozen chambers of commerce and president of several charitable organizations, and served on several boards, municipal and county boards, and so on and so forth. Important, things to do in the community.
Yeah.
Very important for the community that we all volunteer, and like I myself felt that I had a call to serve, to make sure that that I brought the possibilities of positive changes to things, and so on and so forth. But I found out the hard way that campaigning for office, for elected office, and being an activist or advocate in the community,
two different things.
It's two different worlds, not two different things. It's like it's like the moon and Mars.
It's completely different.
It's completely different. So you told me many times.
It's the same solar system, but different.
To say the truth, you told me you used to laugh, and I said, "Oh, come on!" I used to say, hey, a little money.
You used to tell me, you don't know anything. You're young. You know how much older I am, and this and that.
A little money, and and all the background with all these people and so on. But you know what? When it came down to the actual district and the different economic conditions in the different areas, because it covered, Little Havana, which is a very low income area.
Correct.
Downtown with all your business and the port, and then you have some of the richest area in the country, which is all the Isles and Miami Beach and all these things. It was going from the Polo North to the South Pole.
Yep.
And then and then going from an activist or an advocate to an elected official, possibility of running for office.
Completely different. Completely different.
That's why really I always keep hammering. I'm sorry, to the fact that you need to run a organized, professional, knowledgeable, experienced campaign.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you're running by yourself and you want to have a good presentation in the community that people see, your campaign to be a professional things coming right from the campaigning aspect to your possible being representing the community and so on.
Absolutely.
And if you have 4 opponents, you want to make sure that you select your most experienced, knowledgeable, action-oriented consultant, a strategist, and so on, because that'll do it. That is the whole different.
I agree.
Don't count on your friends, the donations that you think, I know all these people, they're all going to donate.
They always donate.
Yeah.
Until they need to donate.
That was me.
Yeah.
I thought, oh man, I can raise all this money from all these people I know.
And when they need to write the check, they were nowhere to be found.
They had arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis.
They didn't want to write. They couldn't write. But the other reason that I say running for local office matters is because once you run for local office, you're going to figure out and see exactly, one, how the system works, how government works, but two, most importantly, you're going to be able to understand exactly what the real issues are within this community, within your community. So, for instance, you want to start fixing potholes, you're doing that, you're doing great. You want to start fixing streets, okay. Well, there is going to be some red tape because some streets are city-owned city-owned. Some streets are owned by the county. Other streets are owned by the state.
Exactly.
So there's going to be a lot of red tape, especially once you go into something as simple as the streets. So you're going to see exactly how that works. There's only going to be so much that you're going to be able to do on a local level. And if you really have your heart in the right place and you really want to make your community a better place to live, work, and play, you're going to have to run for higher office to make sure that you fix those issues that you can't on a local level. But running locally allows you to gain that experience and see how things work. But most importantly, it allows you to create these relationships with other elected officials and lobbyists, which in the long run will donate to your campaign.
No, what happens, if I may add, is to the fact that, even when you get elected, no matter what position you are, whether you're local, state, or,
Yep.
or federal, whatever, you yourself are going to have to make alliances. You're going to have to negotiate with other elected officials, in the body of government that you belong to,
Correct.
that you got elected to, because your vote alone will carry nothing through. You're going to have to learn to really work with across the aisle, to work with other elected officials.
Yeah.
If you are in the municipality, you got half a dozen, five commissioners, or whichever you have. You're going to need 3 votes at least to get your deal through.
Correct.
And all of this takes knowledge, working together with the other people.
Working together.
Just the fact is that I've seen is that just your interest to get things done for your community, needs of your community solved, it just doesn't come that easy.
Nope.
You need that experience on the local level.
Yep. It's a give and take relationship. Number 3, and these are personal lessons from tight races. A lot of people think that they win by large margins or they lose by large margins. Yes, that is true sometimes, but most of the time it's very close races. Whether you're winning, you're losing, it's usually very close depending on the type of race you're running. If you have a consultant, you have an idea of exactly how to run a race, the other candidate does too, chances are it's going to be a very tight race. Lessons learned from a tight race, and this is something, like I said, I want to go into the nitty gritty with you guys. I know it's been very fluffy, very vague, the previous episodes, but this is actually the real nitty gritty type of stuff. So like that, previous episodes, you were thinking of running, you've heard about it, you're like, oh shit, I'm going to do it. Now you're doing it. Now this is the real nitty gritty type of stuff. So 2018, I want to give you more inside the campaign mind, per se. So lessons from a tight race on my behalf is I have 3 points here. It's basically the candidate has to be willing to leave it all out on the field. A lot of candidates say, well, I have a lot of cash. I have a team of volunteers. I have a team of canvassers, canvassers walking, and a team of phone bankers making phone calls. I really don't got to be doing much. One of the last things that you want to be doing is, the day after election day, say, what if I would have walked more? What if I would have made more calls? What if I would have raised more cash? That's the last thing you want to be doing after you got your ass kicked on election day. So you want to make sure that you leave it all out on the field. So come that Wednesday after the election, you could say, I did everything in my power to make sure that I got elected. I did everything I could have possibly, humanly possibly done to get elected. Number 2 is outwork and out-hustle your opponent. That's kind of tied into that first one. Mm-hmm. You got to be willing to do what your opponent is not willing to do to dominate your election. A lot of candidates, like I said, they rely on cash. They rely on volunteers and workers. They don't put in that work themselves. So make sure that you're putting in that work. I say this in almost every single episode, that voters want to touch, feel, and smell the candidate. There's only so much that a volunteer or a campaign worker can do. The voters want to touch you. They want to smell you. They want to see the sweat dripping down your forehead once you're canvassing. They love that. And number 3, this is actually from a previous experience. This was a campaign that we lost. One of the campaigns that we lost last year. Thank goodness we had a winning record last year. For the record, guys, we lost a couple of them. This was actually one of them. And the reason why is because of this exact same reason. They weren't willing to put in that work. They thought just because they had the money, they were able to win and that they were going to crush it and so on and so forth.
Go for broke.
Yeah, exactly. So we had a candidate last year that was running for local office, it was a state office, and then there was 5 candidates. There was 5 candidates. They went to election day came around. Our candidate came in first. We crushed it early voting. We crushed it election day, and we dominated the absentee ballots. We had to go to a runoff because nobody got 50% plus 1. So it was our candidate A, to keep it like that, and then candidate B were going to the runoff. They go to the runoff. Candidate A, our candidate, says, well, I came first in the general election. I did great. I don't need to raise much more money. People love me. I'm going to win. I'm going to dominate. I'm going to crush it. I'm going to win. I don't got to do much. Continue doing what we're doing here, Pedro, and that'll be enough. Candidate B, on the other hand, that guy was crazy. That guy was knocking on doors every single day. That guy was making phone calls himself with his family. That guy was doing everything he possibly could to overthrow candidate one's support from the general election. Make a long story short, candidate B had less money, less name recognition, but he had that drive. He had that hustle. He had that grind in him. He wanted to make our candidate look bad because our candidate made everybody look bad in the general election. So come election day, long story short, candidate B gets elected, and I commend you. You know exactly who you are. I commend you for doing what you did because you showed people it does not take money to get elected. All it takes is hard work and dedication. Thoughts?
And a good strategist.
And a good strategist.
Organized.
And a good strategist.
You gotta be organized. You gotta make your right moves at the right time, and so on. And that I say is so important. And we underestimate the importance of everything that happens. When you should be out knocking on doors, and when you should be doing your mailers, and when you should be out in your town hall meetings, and your absentee ballots coming out, and election day, and everything takes preparation.
Yeah.
Everything takes and you got to be ready.
You have to be ready. You have to
and money is indispensable because the true fact today that I saw myself was the fact that everything costs money. Even if people want to help you, even like you did with me, and a good campaign strategist and so on, you need funds because you need to get printing, mailers,
postage. It costs money. Everything costs money.
So get yourself ready beforehand before you decide to run. Consider what's going to be, what's your financial needs also.
Yeah, but don't scare them off and say because.
Don't scare them in.
No, yeah, okay. Scare them in, but don't scare them. You don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars to get elected. No. You need a reasonable amount of money.
Unless you have them.
You just need a reasonable amount of money to make sure you're able to do the basics. Okay. Now, whatever you cannot do, whatever you cannot purchase with money, you're gonna have to do with sweat equity. You're gonna have to put in that work, you, your family, and friends. So don't get scared for running for office. If you have your heart in the right place and you want to do it for all the right reasons, run for office. Just know you are going to have to raise some cash because signs cost money, t-shirts cost money, printing costs money. So even if you do it yourself, it's going to cost you a little bit of cash. But remember, you don't have the money, you're going to have to do a lot of the work yourself. So anything else? Any other final thoughts?
And I don't recommend that, doing a lot of the work yourself.
That's true.
I say, your mailers have to say the right thing.
Yeah.
Your door hangers, everything has to be coordinated.
Correct.
And you know that well. You do that every day for many candidates, and you know how important it is, even down to the colors of your signs.
Yeah, it all makes a difference.
What states on your mail out? What is the first impression somebody's gonna get when they get a door hanger on your door and they look and it's your picture and the references that you're posting and what are the issues that you want to carry on for your constituents and so on. This is all very important, and I don't recommend for anybody to, even if if people think, hey, I know this and I know internet and I can do this and do that. Let me tell you, what I seen you do, what I see happening, what I've seen with the different campaigns, it is very important. It's like, you have a corporation and you want to answer the phones and you want to run production and you want
to do sales, you want to do everything.
Do the sales and everything else. No.
You can't.
It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. But guys, this is the tail end of the show. Mr. Rey Valdez, Senor, thank you very much.
Hey, good to see you again.
Likewise.
God bless.
guys, if like what he was saying, if you are going to be doing this yourself, just make sure you do your research. Like I said, meet with different consultants, get an idea for what they do, kind of put together your own plan. But even better, what you guys could do is look at the other videos here on YouTube. Check out the previous podcasts. You could kind of tie it all together. We give you a lot of tips, tricks, and strategies that we still use today on these Campaign Grind episodes. But thank you guys very much for tuning into this week's episode of the Campaign Grind. If you have, yes?
Buy Pedro lunch and pick his brain.
Buy me lunch or grab me a beer. It's all good. So if you guys have any questions, as always, give me a call, 305-860-1010, 305-860-1010. Shoot me an email, pedro@diazcampaigns.com, pedro@diazcampaigns.com, or follow me on all social media platforms. This is actually a new handle that we're using on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook to basically make it easier for you guys to follow us, ask us any questions. It's @Campaign Mentor. Anything, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, anything, Campaign Mentor. Remember that, Campaign Mentor, Campaign Mentor.
And the book.
And the book. You can also get the book, the Campaign Grind Booklet. It's on Amazon.com. Check it out, Campaign Grind Booklet. But you guys have any questions, 24/7, it's @Campaign Mentor on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Thank you guys very much for tuning into this week's episode of the Campaign Grind. I am Pedro Diaz, signing out.